Which of you is talented enough to exhibit the art of being offended and defended at the same time? Well, you're looking at someone who has at one time or another been genius in the execution of both. That's right, amazing. Of course, you may too have achieved great heights. Who knows? The cost of taking offense and defense is high. Working towards quelling these responses is worthwhile. Thankfully, I've come a ways on this road, but will probably work on defending less and letting things roll off my back more easily for the rest of my life. That's okay, because forward movement is always a win. Taking offense means we become angry, hurt, or upset because someone has said or done something we perceive as disrespectful or inconsiderate. Notice, I said perceive. Words and deeds are often misconstrued. If taking offense or getting defensive is second nature to you, then you are missing growth opportunities. Defensiveness is about judging other people in order to protect ourselves from being wrong. If we want to connect with others, they need to be able to share how they are feeling without fear of judgment. When we take offense, we are judging. Parents, particularly, need to be careful to model listening without judging. If we don't, kids learn to judge others without hearing them out. Parental offensive or defensive behavior may force kids to take sides with one parent. In time, they may fear talking to us and fail to turn to us when they need us the most. Our example isn't the best teacher. It is the only teacher. Here are some reasons to let go of defending. For one, we become terrible listeners when we're busy defending. We're too busy planning our argument for innocence and proving that we are right. The other person can tell we aren't paying attention to their thought, and then we lose connection. The other person will often get defensive too, or just agree for the sake of peace. Connection, L-O-S-T. We will not be seen as right, but as insecure and condescending. We also block personal growth when we defend because we don't recognize our own mistakes. Troubleshooting and moving forward with someone is how we grow and how relationships strengthen. This process is good and we don't want to miss it. When we decide someone is doing us wrong, we become victims. Victims are powerless. Victimized children are truly powerless. But as adults, we can take responsibility for our part in a situation and decide what constructive action we will take. We can still be powerful in our unfair situation. When we become defended and defensive, we have given that power to the other person. Sometimes we tell someone what has happened to us, leaving out relevant details about our behavior and the whole situation. We may get sympathy that we want, but deep inside, we know that all the pieces of the full story aren't there. Doing this damages our own self-respect. But I've got to admit, it's kind of fun to sometimes sit and whine about the outrageous thing the other guy said or did. Why, with all this, do we defend so quickly when criticized? We all want to be loved and appreciated for who we are, but we're not perfect, so criticism/offense is bound to come, and rightly so. It is to be expected, but we have problems hearing complaints about ourselves when we are not grounded enough in self-acceptance and aware of our inherent value. If we aren't accepting and loving enough towards ourselves, then confrontation feels very threatening and we defend. Maybe we began believing in childhood or somewhere along the way that we were unworthy or bad. For those of us who were fortunate enough to have picked up healthy thoughts about self as children, criticism is still not easy to receive. Darn it, we want to look good. If we aren't filled with good messages about ourselves, the job is harder. I realized at different points in my life, and especially after going through a transformative seminar, that the reason criticism could be so offensive and hurtful and often stayed with me is that I was very critical of myself. Someone else's criticism was threatening to my ego because any negative words or perceived slights told me I was not okay, not really lovable. My ability to listen, then evaluate the truth of a situation myself was weak. Sometimes someone else's impression of me was just wrong, but even then it was hard for me to blow off those comments. If this describes you, it isn't your fault, and you have my empathy. But now it is your responsibility to grow and become tougher. We can put on the bulletproof vest of self-acceptance and love. We can remember that we are flawed, but amazing and beautiful nonetheless. That is the truth, and we can accept that truth or not. If you don't feel amazing and beautiful, then you've probably been rehearsing lies about yourself for a long time. Think of yourself as a small child, innocent and vulnerable. That vulnerable youth lives inside you. What will you say to that beautiful self? It needs to become second nature to treat ourselves as precious and amazing. My overall point is that we have to find love and compassion for ourselves before we can talk ourselves down from something that feels offensive. Remember, feelings are just that. They aren't truth. If qualities that give us a secure sense, like knowing we are lovable and okay as we are, didn't get watered and fertilized as we grew up, then as adults, we need to go get high-quality fertilizer and turn on the sprinklers. I like this analogy because we usually know what practices and people will nourish us, and this is where we are responsible. We need to avoid whatever tears us down and hang out with people who are good to us. Poor practices could be anything from what we choose to watch on TV to how we speak about ourselves. The best place I know to go for infilling of love and value is to God. What Scripture tells us about individual value as human beings is almost breathtaking. This is from The Message. Oh yes, you shaped me first inside, then out. I thank you, high God. You're breathtaking. Body and soul, I am marvelously made. That is you, and that is me. We all believe in something. Why not choose to believe in the messages that fill our hearts with love and value? Not everything that happens to us comes from a good heart. For instance, unkind words born out of contempt are not okay. We should recognize right away that the person being ugly is the one with the problem. Spewing contempt is not productive. We should walk away. But critical words can come from someone who is truly upset by our actions or interested in helping us see or know something. My friend does some public speaking. One day a lady told her that she should wear a jacket because her arms didn't look great and it was distracting to her. Well, gosh, who wants to hear this? Outrageous. But it is a fairly innocent piece of feedback that she could evaluate. This is where our grown-up self needs to talk to our offended self. Defense would say, my arms are fine. Offense would say, how dare you? But the comment wasn't hateful. The adult self says, Do I need to tone up my arms? Should I wear a jacket? Might someone else be distracted from my message too? Do I even care about this comment? Then we make choices accordingly. We don't need to bother judging whether or not the lady should have said it. I always think it's a bit funny and uninsightful for us to think that other people need to say the things we would say and not say the things we wouldn't say. Families of origin are different. Motivations are different. Some people speak up more than others. Social norms vary. Some comments are extreme, deliberately unkind, and way over the line of social decorum. But many, like the arm comment, are something lesser. If we assume the best about the commenter's motivation and don't try to mind read and judge, then we will walk away calm. I know for sure that I have said some things that didn't come out well. We've all offended someone, often unknowingly. If we can think about those times that we wanted grace and then give that to others, we will have an easier time. We hope people won't hold grudges against us. Let's not be weighted down with grudges ourselves. A few years ago, a friend of mine was deeply offended by another person. She didn't know the person and had made assumptions about motive. Did she go talk to the person instead of jumping to conclusions that seemed very true and upsetting? No. Was that productive? No. Is there any chance of working things out with silence? No. Telling some other party about the offense doesn't do any good. It is defending a position when there's no clear position from the other person anyway. It's a waste of energy and steals our peace. My sweet husband was offended by something he heard. He hung on to it for a while. I asked if he ever talked to the person. He hadn't. I encouraged him to go talk, and he did. There was a complete misunderstanding, and things are great now. It was a beautiful ending that couldn't have happened without my husband opening up his mind and listening. Is there anyone you need to communicate with? My last video was communicating complaints effectively. Check it out for support if you decide to talk to the offender. It is much easier to talk behind someone's back than to communicate directly to the person we are upset with. When we communicate openly, we are vulnerable because we may not get the result we were hoping for. In my video, How to Set Goals and Win Every Time, there are pointers about how to stick up for yourself in healthy ways that cause no harm. Advocating for ourselves is great. We just need to do it in a way that doesn't do damage to another or ourselves. The next time someone wants to give uninvited or unfavorable feedback, let's try something super novel, just listening. There is no need to jump into the battle trench or grab arms. Even if someone is coming from contempt, the words don't have to penetrate us. When we can simply let someone else's words be theirs and not be consumed by them ourselves, we have arrived at some pretty solid ground. Standing on solid ground is good. It's secure. From there, we can consider and evaluate. We don't have to respond. We can just say, okay, thank you. So little energy is needed. Difficult or plain ugly moments give us a chance to practice many skills that most of us say we want. For example, patience or forgiveness. Less defensive, hard to offend people offer a good example to others. What if the whole world took on this goal? Every good goal starts with us. We must live by what we want. I have been in many situations where someone was unfriendly, but I kept being friendly until something shifted. It always feels great when the barrier, whatever it is or was, gets broken. If I just became offended by a lack of friendliness, That could never happen. Some days we have more energy and patience than other days. If you have a great day, pat yourself on the shoulder. If on another day you get defensive and or offended, take a look at the situation and be honest with yourself. See if there might be a way to avoid the needless spending of emotional energy. Assuming the best in others can really take a load off ourselves. Realizing that people in pain lash out can also help. Remember, if we don't take offense, we will not feel offended. If we don't feel offended, we won't be. I hope you will relax in knowing that you are always free to make choices about what you let run through your mind. And I hope that today your mind focuses on your own brilliant light and what a little mental adjustment can do to make life easier for you and those around you. You are loved, beautiful, and amazing.